Everyone, this is Vicente.
And this is Izzy.
And welcome back to the IV podcast and continuing our Spider-Verse marathon franchise. Now, we're on Spider-Man 3. Now, I know we just released our Into the Spider-Verse review a little bit earlier than expected, but that's just because we want to get people ready for the new Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah.
But Izzy, what can we say about Spider-Man 3? Now, to me, it's just kind of amazing, but not in a good or bad way. It's just because with Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2, you had these two amazing movies for this amazing comic book character coming to life. And the question is, how can you live up to the sequel? And now, Spider-Man 3 sounds good on paper with just the plot itself. But during the filming, there were just a lot of setbacks.
Yeah, with Spider-Man 3, I think it was it's a good movie to watch. Don't get me wrong. You should still watch it.
Oh yeah.
But unfortunately with this one there are some things that aren't so amazing but still are okay. The only really funny thing about this movie, it gave us many memes when it comes to Spider-Man.
Oh yeah. You know it was fun. Okay, so what's funny, I'm gonna get this out of the way, is that Sam Raimi just wanted to use Sandman in this movie and Harry Osborn's new Goblin.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want no one else. But Sony knew that Venom was becoming a popular character.
Mm-hmm.
And he told Sam Raimi, somehow put Venom in your movie. Now, that's a red flag right there.
Yeah.
Because Venom is way too big of a villain to just be a side character like that. He can be a side character, but you have to establish his character in like a movie or two just so we know as an audience who Venom is. And it's very hard to fuck up Venom, but this movie, Sam Raimi did the best he could with Venom. I'll get that out of the way. You know, he still gave him love despite not wanting Venom to be in the movie. But you can just tell that it was just a mess with multiple storylines. You know, you think the movie's going to go one way and it goes a different way. And then just a lot of studio interference. Sam Raimi said that filming this movie and making it was very, very exhausting. And you can tell.
Yeah, I think for the situation that Sam Raimi was in and the rules that he had to keep by in making this movie, I think he did a decent job with what he was given. So, applaud to him that with what he made, because it is a decent movie. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
It just isn't what you think it's gonna be when you watch it for the first time, especially from what you see from his first two movies.
Oh yeah, and you know, I'm gonna say right now, I think this movie gets overhated way too much. Mm-hmm. Is it a good Spider-Man movie? It's okay. Is it a bad Spider-Man movie? No. But I like it. I wouldn't even call it a guilty pleasure. I really do like it. You know, I used to really hate it back then, but I think over the time, like, has gone throughout the years, I've enjoyed it a little bit more and more every time I watched it. Like I said, I still have my same negatives, but I can still appreciate what Sam Raimi was trying to do with this character of Spider-Man. But just like I said, Sony interfering with this movie, wanting to push in Venom, wanting to do this and that. And, you know, and yeah, the memes are funny, but there are some moments in this movie to where the humor is just like, wasn't really funny.
Yeah, that is true. But and I think this movie is a perfect example of what studio interference can do to a movie, and it just makes you wonder how good this movie could have been if there wasn't any.
Now, I don't think I've ever told Izzy how I would have done this movie, but I think after we go over our positives, mix, and negatives of this movie, I'll do a little version of myself of what I would do for Spider-Man 3. Because I'm going to be honest, this movie should have been a 2-part series. It should have been, you know, like Deathly Hallows and other movies before, they had a part 1 and a part 2. Spider-Man 3 could have been really, really good. It could have been better than Spider-Man 2. They just needed they should have done a 2-part so more story could have made more sense instead of just trying to cram everything into one.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I mean, look at the MCU movies, the Avengers movies, and even some DC movies. They took their time. And then, you know, yeah, people can say, well, they had multiple characters in those movies. Well, yeah, but the Avenger movies, they took the time to build those things up. And then they can do it. Spider-Man 3 had that potential. But unfortunately, it was a rush production, and you can tell.
Yeah. So I guess that leaves us. Is there anything you want to add?
I would say I'd recommend this movie. You know, if you're just a casual Spider-Man fan, you might enjoy this. You know, you might enjoy it a lot. But if you're a hardcore Spider-Man fan like me, you're either gonna love it, be indifferent to it, or just hate it in general. I'm in the middle. I like it. I have a good time. but I don't love it. It's still not a great film. Not saying it's bad, but it's not great either.
Yeah, there's a lot for me. There's a lot more other Spider-Man films I would rather watch than this one, but it's not one that I'm going to be like, I should never watch this ever again. No, it is one I would want to watch again. Like, there are parts of it where it's really good and it really shines. It just, unfortunately, there's some parts of this movie that kind of tainted a little bit. So that's why it's just okay for me. And as a casual goer, a casual fan of Spider-Man, I still enjoyed it really well. And like before I knew all the hate and all the back behind the scenes, because you can tell there were problems, but it's still enjoyable overall.
Yeah, and like we said, we give Sam Raimi the absolute applause that he deserves. Cause he was probably frustrated throughout this whole movie, but he still kept us cool and still gave us a pretty good film. You know, not the best, but still a pretty good film.
Yeah.
All right, so getting into our positives first. Our first positive is the opening scene with Spider-Man. Now, with Spider-Man 2, we open up with just Peter Parker and how his life is going. Like we mentioned, the Parker luck. But in this movie, his life is pretty good. But we get to see him as Spider-Man, just him narrating. You know, he says, you know, hey there, I'm your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, not Peter Parker. He doesn't say, but I'm also Peter Parker.
Yeah.
He'll tell about like his school life and everything. But this movie plays into the idea that he's kind of full of himself, and you see it even before he gets a symbiote suit. He's just a little bit full of himself, you know, when he's talking to MJ about, you know, Spider-Man stuff, and she tries to say, oh, well, you know, life is going blah, blah, blah. But he'll say, oh, well, Spider-Man went through that too. But instead of hating it, I actually like it because it shows that Peter's too comfortable in this lifestyle as Spider-Man, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, and I agree. It puts Peter Parker in a different perspective that we haven't seen before. And I mean, I think it's a good thing. It's good to see the character development.
Oh, yeah.
See him get too comfortable in his character. And I think it gives a different tone to this movie. And for what we see next throughout the plot, I think it sets the tone really well.
Yeah, and I'm not saying Peter Parker and Spider-Man can't have a good life. They can. Marvel, I've seen what you've been doing getting off topic a little bit. Marvel, I've seen what you've been doing in the recent Marvel comic runs. Please stop giving Peter Parker such a bad life. Come on, man. Give this man a break. No, for real. He's been having it really, really bad in the comic run. I haven't read any new comics, but like I've looked at posts and people talking about it. You know, just getting off topic a little bit. But yeah, no, Marvel loves to fuck him over really bad. Really? It sucks.
I mean, I understand in the MCU right now he's being effed over, but like, come on, they can't do Spider-Man like that.
That's the Parker luck, like we keep talking about.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, but yeah, you know, like I said, opening scene of Spider-Man, it's good to see him be happy for once, but it's also good to see him get a little too comfortable to where he thinks he's almost invincible, that no one can touch him. And I like that theme because then when the symbiote's introduced, which we'll talk about later, the symbiote just tarnishes everything and almost his legacy.
Yeah, I think it just enhances his attitude from then, and it just strips him from that humanity. And okay, I don't want to get too much in detail, but it just, the way that they open this movie just, I think, sets the tone really well for where the story's going.
Oh yeah, and you know, we get Bryce Dallas Howard as Gwen Stacy. I think she was pretty good at Gwen Stacy.
Oh yeah,
I liked her. I like her in a lot of movies. All right, and moving on to our second positive, Sandman. This is like one of the top tier Spider-Man villains in cinema history. Thomas Hayden Church was just perfect for this role. Now, there is a thing that they involved in his origin story for this movie in particular, which I'll talk about my negatives. But I'm going to talk about his positives. Izzy, I know you said you liked the final battle with Sandman.
Yeah, so I liked the final battle with Sandman because I think it was really cool. I mean, yes, Sandman was a bad guy, but at the same time, I feel like he kind of found his middle ground.
He was a sympathetic villain.
Yeah, which I feel like was really fresh. I mean, I guess we kind of saw that in Doc Ock, but I mean, it was kind of fresh for the franchise, especially with all the history that was behind the two of them. So, I mean, I really enjoyed Sandman, especially since this was my first introduction to him as well.
You know, and I like this version of Sandman a little bit better than his comic book version. You know, in the ending battle with Sandman, just seeing him turn into that big sand monster was tight as hell. I remember as a kid, I was like, oh shit. Like, it was just so cool. The CGI on Sandman looks pretty damn good. It even holds up today. And this movie got released 2008, I believe.
Yeah,
2008. Yeah, you know, but we still get that emotional drive with Sandman, is that he's not necessarily a bad guy. Yes, he does bad things, but it's like, but there's a line in the movie that he says, I'm not a bad person. I just get in bad situations. And that's the character of Sandman in this movie. You know, he has a good heart, but he has this life of crime that he can't escape from. You know, and I don't want to reveal my biggest negative with them. But yeah, and then, you know, he even tells Spider-Man during a scene in the movie where he's stealing all this money from an armored truck saying, I don't want to hurt you, leave now. So you can tell that he's not necessarily evil. He just wants to get money for his daughter that's sick.
Yeah, he's trying to do what he can with what he knows. And because of it, I think it just makes him, I don't want to say relatable, but I think it just makes him understandable in the situation, because us as people, we know we would do anything to help save a loved one.
Oh yeah,
at the bottom of the day.
Yeah, you know, and people could say, "Oh, I would never steal that amount of money." If you can do it, getting away scot-free, everyone would do it. Most people would do it. Yeah. If anything, it'd be the guilty conscience that you had. Yeah. You know, before we get off topic too, but yeah, no, the character of Sandman, love him. Thomas Hayden Church did an amazing job, and I was very, very happy to see him in No Way Home, which I can't wait to talk about more of his character in that movie. Yeah. And then now for our third and final positive, the message this movie has, and despite a fourth movie being planned, this was a perfect end to this trilogy and story. So, should I talk about the message or the ending first?
I would talk about the message first.
Okay, so the message in this movie is all about forgiveness. And this is what I love, and this is one that hits pretty close home to me. Like I mentioned in Spider-Man 2, when Peter Parker was telling Doc Ock, don't let the arms control you. That's the symbolism for don't let things in your past hold you back. You know, Doc Ock's mechanical arms represented his past, the death of his wife, because he caused it. And that can be a metaphor for everyone who's had something bad happen to them, but they still cling on to it. You know, Spider-Man 2 is all about moving on and accepting your fate and accepting what happened in your past happened. All you can do now is just move forward. And this movie is forgiveness. You know, it's about Peter forgiving Sandman for what he did. Is Peter forgiving MJ for cheating on him? And is Peter forgiving Harry Osborn for trying to kill him when Harry Osborn finally dies? And it's all about Mary Jane forgiving Peter. This movie's just all about forgiveness. Yeah. And that's what I love. And as someone who used to struggle with forgiving people and holding grudges and anger towards people, I love the message. I do. You know, and then when Peter gets the symbiote suit represents our inner darkness that we all have. All of us have a symbiote in a metaphorically way. We all have a symbiote that makes us angry, that makes us depressed, that makes us dark. But for some reason, we love the thrill of it. I know this is like sounding a little bit like a mental health, you know, episode, but it's not. Maybe one day I'll talk about a mental health episode. But that symbiote is what drove Peter. That anger that we all felt, that darkness we all held against someone we want to hurt. And, you know, Peter wants to hurt Sandman. He wants to hurt Peter. Or Peter wants to hurt Harry, for what they did to him. And just like in real life, we all want to hurt people that did us wrong. Now, a lot of us don't believe in turning the other cheek. You know, people say, oh, just turn the other cheek. A lot of people don't. Yeah. And so for Sam Raimi to just do an amazing job at delivering the messages in the first movie, where the first movie is, with great power comes great responsibility, that if you have if you have the power to change stuff, you have to do it for the great good of people. The second movie was embracing your past and accepting what happened. And the third movie, forgiveness. And I commemorate Sam Raimi for doing an amazing job with sending these messages. And for someone who holds them very close to my heart and always will, I appreciate it. You know, and just seeing Peter forgive a lot of stuff in this movie, I love it. I love when he forgives Sandman. I love when he forgives MJ, and I love when he finally forgives Harry Osborn.
Yeah. Honestly, for me, I never thought of the trilogy that I mean, I knew there were messages behind the trilogy, but I mean, I think it speaks volume to Sam Raimi as a director to put these kind of messages to help people like you or just anybody in the world to take these messages and apply them to life with a everyday hero we see as Spider-Man, who we can see as a real human being, but also the hero that we can look up to.
And that's what I mean by that Peter Parker / Spider-Man is always going to be the most relatable hero there ever is. And I appreciate that Sam Raimi was able to humanize that character.
Mhm.
Now, before I get a little too emotional with this forgiveness talk, let's talk about the ending. The ending wraps up everything perfectly. I mean, it's sad that we finally have the death of Harry Osborn,
Yeah.
but he went out saving Peter. He sacrificed himself. And the ending shot is Peter and MJ finally forgiving each other. Forgiveness message again. Finally forgiving each other and just embracing in love. And I love that shot. And despite me wanting a Spider-Man 4, and I hope we get a Spider-Man 4, Tobey Maguire says he wants to do it, I will be perfectly okay if this is where his story ends. Because it really does feel like it's the end of a story and franchise. And despite this movie having a lot of flaws, I still think it's the perfect ending.
Yeah, I for this being a trilogy, I think this is as good as an ending as we have right now. Would it be great to get a fourth? Sure. It's always great to get another movie. But I think the way that this movie was created and the way it was set up, I think it was done really well, and it finished its story what it wanted to tell and didn't leave many loose ends.
Yeah. Like I said, Sam Raimi, you didn't. Sam Raimi, I just got to say this. I'm getting a little choked up. Thank you for bringing this character to life on the big screen. You introduced me. I know Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire, or any other one from the Spider-Man cast will ever see this, but I just want to say thank you, Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire. You brought a character to life that I've loved in the comics. You got me into the Spider-Man comics because of your movie. I'm sorry, guys. Thank you. It sucks. I mean, if there is a Spider-Man 4, I'll be happy. But this movie was a good ending to this series. I just want to say thank you for bringing this character to life on the big screen. And this is a movie I will definitely show our kids in the future.
Yeah, this is a trilogy we will never forget. We will always watch. No matter the day, no matter how we feel about Spider-Man, will always be a trilogy we go back to watch. No matter whatever Spider-Man version comes out in the future, this will always be our true Spider-Man and Peter Parker.
Yeah, and no disrespect to Tom Holland or Andrew Garfield. We love you guys. We love Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield. I love him as Spider-Man. But just Tobey Maguire is always going to be my childhood Spider-Man.
Yeah. This is the one that we hold close to our hearts, and I think everybody understands that when they have that childhood superhero that they look up to ever since they were a little kid, or that first movie that you saw of your favorite superhero, this is that one for him.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Sorry, guys.
So I know everybody who's watching this or just listening will understand, like, this is his childhood superhero that he can always look up to. He has looked up to advice. He looked up just for everyday relationships.
Damn it, Izzy.
I know. I'm sorry.
You made me cry. No shame in crying at all either.
No.
Everyone, to anyone that doesn't believe in crying, get the fuck out. Everyone cries. Doesn't matter how tough you are. No. Yeah. Thank you, Izzy, for that little emotional thing.
You're welcome. I love you.
I love you too. All right. That's going to do it for our positives. Now we're going to get to our mixed feelings of the movie. Now, fair warning, our mixed feelings are still more positive, but we still have a little negative with them.
Yeah.
And our first positive, or our first mixed feeling, not positive, our first mixed feeling, of course, is going to be eddiebrock / Venom. Now, I love Topher Grace, and people need to understand that this version of Venom was a different version of eddiebrock. Mm-hmm. I know the eddiebrock and Venom from the comics is this big bulk guy, football player, star athlete, everything, bodybuilder. But Sam Raimi wanted an eddiebrock version to represent the darker side of Peter Parker.
Mhm.
Eddie Brock in this movie represents who Peter Parker would have been if he never had Uncle Ben in his life. Just a complete douchebag. And granted, I still, Topher Grace did what he could with this character. And he did get a little bulked up for the movie, and so you can tell, but he just wasn't really intimidating as Venom himself. And the biggest gripe with Venom is that in the comics, Venom says we. There is no I. When he says we, he's talking about the host and the symbiote itself.
Yeah. Venom in this movie, I think for it being a character that was forced to be added to the movie, was still played off really well.
Oh, yeah.
Now, he had been introduced earlier? Sure. But we didn't know he was going to have to be added.
Mhm.
So I think for the parts that he was in it were really good. I know this is our mixed part, but I'm going to say I think one of the coolest parts when it came to Venom was just how they defeated him, how Peter
Oh,
figured it
yeah.
out. So that's what I wanted to say. He was not, and it's hard today too, because I feel like a lot of people compare this version to Venom to the newer version of Venom, and they're like completely different. And people
Mhm.
need to understand that when they watch this movie. They can't expect some new version be this version. So you have to understand that.
Yeah. In the final battle between him and Spider-Man, it was badass as hell, especially figuring out that sound, like loud noises, vibration is a symbiote's weakness. That was cool. I just really wish that, I'm going to be honest, I'd want Jensen, I would fan cast. Okay, can we edit this part out?
Yeah.
I would cast Jensen Ackles as Venom. That would have been cool. Yeah, I think he was in contention at one point to be Eddie Brock. I think he would have been a better Eddie Brock, but like I said, I can enjoy Topher Grace here and there. He's Eric Foreman from that 70s show. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, and this actually leads to our second mixed feeling, the symbiote suit and symbiote itself. Now I'm going to talk about the suit design. I do like it, but I saw the behind the scene photos of the original symbiote suit, and it was straight up from the comics. Look it up if you haven't. We can't show it because, we're not sure if it's going to get copyrighted.
Yeah.
But the original symbiote suit looked like it literally jumped from the comic book page itself. I showed Izzy it, and she even said, why didn't they go with it? Sam Raimi said that it looked too much like a sex suit, like from a weird Finnish kink movie, and I disagree.
Yeah, I think it would have been, I think they should have used it. Yes, it might have looked weird, but I think they should have used it because all the comic book watchers would have so much appreciated it, so much more than like the casual goers. And I think if people would have understood it was from the comics, people wouldn't have minded as much either.
Oh yeah, it looks so cool. Now, I'm going to talk about the symbiote itself. Here's the thing with the symbiote. A lot of people don't understand is that it's a sentient being too. It's a multiversal being. It has feelings. It talks just like you and me, like her. And it gets angry. It gets happy. But what this movie kind of fails at is that it treats it like as if it's just kind of a monster in its own way. And it is a monster. But I would say he's kind of like a smart monster.
Mm-hmm.
Like the new Venom movies actually get Venom right when it comes to like his communication with Eddie Brock. And I wish we'd have got scenes to where the Venom symbiote talks to Peter in Peter's head, and Peter's like, how are you talking to me? And we get a little origin story of the symbiote. The symbiote tells Peter, I came from this world, blah, 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 that has been here for generations from generations. Just something like that, and when Peter, in the bell tower scene where Peter tries to take off the symbiote, I wish we'd have gotten a scene in Peter's head to where the symbiote is telling Peter, stop, don't let me go. To where we see the symbiote act scared, but then turn sinister and angry. And that when the symbiote finally finds Eddie Brock, I wish we'd have gotten a scene to where the symbiote tells Eddie who Spider-Man is, feels his anger, and relates to Eddie Brock.
Yeah, I think that would have elevated Venom's character a lot more if they went that route and gave him a voice instead of just the monster noises that we see. But it would have added so much more to his character, and I really wish they did that route.
Yeah, it just sucks because it's not hard to do the symbiote right. You just have to treat it as if it is an alien monster, but it also has feelings. You have to treat it like it's another human being too. Not a human being, but just another like animal in itself.
Yeah, like another character.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now down to our last mixed feeling, the character of Harry Osborn and New Goblin. And I do appreciate that Sam Raimi built up his character for this showdown with Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like how his character is. He attacks Peter in the beginning, and then he loses his memory. And then Sam Raimi kind of plays with the idea of, oh, will he remember, will he not? And then this whole storyline and character arc is kind of confusing.
Yeah, I thought the whole amnesia thing was just like, it was such a like random chance for it to happen.
Oh my god, yeah.
That's what I mean. It was so random that this would have happened in this storyline, and that he went with it. That it was really weird to me that it went this direction after they introduced. Because I thought, oh, I'm like, okay, maybe it was gonna be this bad guy undercover thing. Like, oh yeah, I'm your friend. Oh wait, maybe I'm not. But no, it's like, oh, I lost my memory. I'm like, okay.
There was a YouTube video I watched. I don't know the name. I forgot the name because there's a lot of YouTubers I watch. If once I find the name, I'll let you guys know. But he said this would have been a better storyline to where at the end of Spider-Man 2, we could have seen Harry and Peter, start being friends again in the beginning of Spider-Man 3, blah, 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 but then building up in that movie, we get to see Harry just start becoming a little bit more antagonistic to Peter Parker, and then he finally decides to become New Goblin in the third act and final act of the movie. And I feel like that would have been a little bit better to where you could have built up that villain.
Yeah, I think if they did that route, that would have set up his character a lot better, and I have a feeling they would have maybe went that route if they didn't have to involve Venom.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep. All right, and that's going to do it for our mixed feelings. Now we're getting to our negatives. And boy, I'm letting you guys know, we're going to be a little passionate about some of these. All right, for our first negative, multiple villains.
Oh my god.
Like I said, this movie should have at least just stuck to Sandman. Mm-hmm. New Goblin, maybe, but Venom, no. I don't get why Sony wanted to keep... They should never pressure Sam Raimi to have Venom in this movie. Because then Sam Raimi still gave him love, but Venom's too big of a character. You have to introduce him in a movie before you can start playing with the idea of Venom itself. Yeah.
Yeah, it was way too much when we had to focus on 3 different villains. Yes, I know that Harry Osborn got amnesia halfway through and became sort of a helper, but at the same time, that was another storyline we had to analyze and go through along with Sandman and Venom, and it was just way too much action packed into an hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah,
2 hours.
2 hours and 30 minutes. And I know No Way Home, had multiple villains, but those villains were already established. Mm-hmm. These are villains you have to establish. I would get it if they did let's just say a Spider-Man 6, and he never killed any of their villains. He just sent them to jail. And then he had all of them. That one I would get because that could be a Sinister Six film to where we know who these characters are already.
Yeah.
It's just when you're establishing new villains, you can't do everything in one movie, which is why I said this should have been a 2-parter.
Yeah, I think Venom would have been set up a lot better if they did a 2-parter. Yeah.
Moving on to our second positive, the reveal that Sandman is Uncle Ben's killer. I do not like this. This is actually stupid. And I get it plays to the forgiveness storyline, but to retcon the original movie to where Peter thought he killed Uncle Ben's killer, and it was all about Peter forgiving himself for committing that murder. No, I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like the reveal that Sandman was Uncle Ben's killer.
Yeah, the fact that they retconned something from the first movie in this trilogy, I think it kind of messes with the first movie a little bit, and I don't like it. It makes it feel uncomfortable, like, okay, something's wrong with the story when it's not, when it was perfectly fine before. Because I don't think there was any plot holes that this uncovered or anything. Like, he killed his killer, that was that.
Yep, and it's just, it's one of my problems I have with Scream 3, is when they retcon the first movie, you don't ever mess with the original. You don't. That's movie knowledge 101. Don't fuck with the original.
Yeah.
and I can look past it, but it's still something I just hate in general. And now moving on to our third negative, and this made Izzy when I told her about it. MJ Mary Jane is a straight up gold digger in this movie. Dude, holy crap. She's kind of a cheater.
I mean, at first I didn't see this because I'm a girl. I don't know. I just didn't see it. But like after watching it a few times, I definitely see it with her character. The way she literally goes from one guy after another guy, and then she goes back to Harry again. I'm just like, what the hell? Like, I don't even know if she's doing it on purpose. This could just be one of the unfortunately, like, this could just be something that she doesn't see and not purposely do. But I don't think you're gonna believe that.
No, and I agree and stuff. You know, and Peter is kind of a douchebag in this movie too, because he jumps like Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
But even in Spider-Man 2, we kind of see how MJ's kind of a little gold digger.
True.
You know, moving to John Jameson, didn't marry him, went back to Peter. But even then, you know, and this kind of goes back to Spider-Man 2, where Mary Jane's like, I want to be with you. I'll take all those risks with you. Dude, this is a toxic-ass relationship.
Yeah, it is.
It's some shit you would see in high school. You know, and then, yeah, granted, Peter is kind of being an asshole, not understanding. I'll fault him for that. But for Mary Jane to go to Harry and then kiss him.
Yeah.
Literally kiss him for like almost 10 seconds. She liked that. I know she did. Because you don't just kiss anyone for 10 seconds and not like it. No, Izzy.
No, I know that, but you have to understand she has been with Peter, who has literally been giving her no attention. Not saying it's right, but I'm just saying, like...
Damn, you're gonna make someone mad.
I know, okay, make people mad, okay? But if you understand feelings at all, then you'll understand how sometimes when you have, because Harry's like the only other person she can go to talk to, even if there wasn't a kiss, he was the only person she would be able to go to.
Yeah, but like even then, I just felt Mary Jane just kept hopping on dudes after dudes after dudes, and it's like, damn, Peter, you should have just kept Gwen. Gwen was way better. Gwen, yeah, I know. Gwen Stacy was a real one. That's a real ride or die right there.
She was just all into the fad.
So I would take Gwen Stacy over Mary Jane.
Oh, really? So
Hell
you would be over like some hottie who just liked you because of how cool you were,
Hell
rather than MJ who kind of liked you for who you were and knew you.
It's Bryce Dallas Howard. I'm going, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man. It's like Keanu Reeves. If I had to choose him over you, I'm choosing Keanu Reeves. You know? All right, now moving on to our fourth negative. This movie had way too many storylines and side plot. You know, like we kind of mentioned earlier, this movie didn't know how to juggle multiple storylines at once. And it was more the fact that they were establishing new characters into this universe. You know, we have the Harry Osborn amnesia storyline. We had the symbiote storyline. We had the Sandman storyline. We had the Uncle Ben's killer storyline. Just all these storylines, and they all didn't mash perfectly together as they should have.
No, they shouldn't. And I mean, I understand I think like we already mentioned, Sam Raimi did the best he could, and we completely agree with that. But it's still, if you're looking at it to nitpick, it really didn't go together as much as we wanted it to, and he probably wanted it to. It just didn't work, having so many different storylines to follow, so many different, oh, here's one character, oh, here's another, here's a brand new one, oh, here's a brand new one that you've seen before but now has amnesia, okay? It's way too much to process in the time that we have.
Yeah, and like I said, this is where studio interference really messed with this movie. They almost did it with Spider-Man 2, because Spider-Man 2 was going to have Doc Ock, but they wanted a younger dude to play Doc Ock and have a love triangle between him, Peter, and Mary Jane, which would have been stupid. And they wanted the Lizard and Black Cat as villains as well. That would have been a mess itself, because Black Cat's another storyline you have to do by itself.
Yeah.
It's just like with Venom in this movie. Venom can be a side character, but he has to be established as a character first before anything, before being any part of, villain team, whether it be the Sinister Six or just a character himself. And then, with Harry getting amnesia and him remembering, oh, and here's a side plot I fucking hate. The butler for Harry Osborn. He waits till all these years to finally tell Harry, dude, your dad was the Green Goblin and killed himself. Don't you think you should have told him way before that, way before he took the formula.
Yeah, he probably should have done that, and I completely forgot about that until now. But yeah, how do you not tell him? Like, okay, maybe there was some secret contract, but he should have told
Hell
him.
nah, bro. Even then, like, what's Norman gonna do to you? He's dead.
I don't know.
I just would have told him straight up. The minute I would, if I was a butler and I seen Harry Osborn start going crazy, I would be like, bruh, your dad was a Green Goblin. He killed himself. I don't know what you're trying. I don't know what you're mad at. But even then, just as movie storylines, there's just way too many. And I don't have a problem with multiple storylines, but you just have to make sure they're coherent together.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not a script writer, I'm not a producer, I'm not a director, but I'm someone who understands how to have storylines just mix everything in. I think a movie that's perfect when it comes to multiple storylines and having all of it pay off is Independence Day.
Yeah.
I would say that.
That one was a good movie.
Oh yeah. You know, like we said, just way too many storylines, way too many villains, and way too many side plots in this movie.
Yeah.
And finally, for our final negative, this movie should have been a two-parter. Now, Izzy, have I told you how I would have done this movie?
You haven't.
Okay, so here's how I would have made this a two-parter. I would have had the symbiote. If Sony really, really wanted me to have Venom and the symbiote itself, I would have said, fine, but let me make this a two-part movie, and you'll get your wish. That way, Sam Raimi still gets to do what he wants and make Sony happy. It's a win-win. So here's how I would have done it. I would have had the same movie basically in itself, but I would have had the symbiote as a sentient being communicating to Peter, telling him about the origins. But here's where I would have made the first part a dark-ass movie. In the final battle, I would have taken inspiration from the Spider-Man 90s cartoon series, Spider-Man the animated series. And we all know which scene I'm talking about at the church tower where symbiote Spider-Man is chasing Shocker and about to murder this dude. He never does because it's the kids' TV show. But here's how I would have done it. I would have had Peter in the symbiote suit murder Sandman and Harry Osborn. Yeah, I know that's dark.
That's really dark.
But I would have done it in a way to where it's the symbiote that made Peter do it.
Okay.
You know, to where for a split second, he turned into Venom. Not Spider-Man with the symbiote suit, but as Venom.
Yeah.
And kill him. And then the symbiote thinks that it did a good job. You know, that it's doing the right thing. But Peter would have been like, no, you made me kill a villain and you made me kill my best friend. And I would have played into the forgiveness thing a little bit, you know. And I would have ended this movie with Peter getting rid of the symbiote suit and him swinging back home with tears in his eye, full of regret that he killed Sandman, that he could have saved Sandman, that Sandman was just a father trying to save his daughter, and that, most of all, Peter killed his best friend. How was he going to tell MJ? Will Mary Jane ever forgive him? Will Spider-Man finally be labeled as a villain? Will the city of New York trust him? It would have played into that factor of the city going against Spider-Man again. And then for a post-credit scene, I would have gone back to that scene, but I would have shot it from a different point of view, Eddie-Brock's point of view, to where he gets the symbiote, to where we see him praying to God to kill Peter Parker. But as we see Peter taking off the symbiote, we would have seen the Venom symbiote go to Eddie-Brock. And the final shot for that post-credit scene would have been Eddie turning into Venom, with the camera coming up and Venom roaring. And then part 2 could have been all-out Venom versus Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think that would have been cool, but I also feel like that's really dark as for killing both of them. I could see maybe killing one,
but it's a symbiote in itself.
Yeah, that is true, but I don't know if I can handle it. I mean, I guess I know it's not Spider-Man, but it's Venom. But like killing two really big characters in this movie.
But it would have proven that Venom is a big threat because Venom is considered an Avengers threat.
That is
the
true.
Symbiote itself. You know, and this is what I would have pointed to make a point that the symbiote itself was driving Peter to evilness. Granted, you know, it never really had any indication. It's just doing what it's doing.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's feeling Peter's emotions, his anger and sadness. And then when Peter rejects the symbiote, it's just full of anger. And so I just would have done that to showcase how the symbiote's changing Peter, and then the second movie would have been the repercussions of Peter Parker getting rid of the symbiote, and now he has to finish it once and for all.
Yeah.
That's how I would have done it.
I'm curious what the message would be behind the second, would maybe behind part 2.
How would I do the message in that one? Getting rid of fighting your old demons. I would have said that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I can't. I'll probably make a video on how I would have done Spider-Man 3.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll have a better message. But yeah, the message for part 2 would have been forgiveness and fighting your inner demons.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right. And that's going to do it for our Spider-Man 3 movie review on the IV podcast. Now, what would you rate this movie? I give it like a solid 7.3 out of 10.
7.3 out of 10? I mean, I think I'm going to go a little higher and give it probably about an 8. It's an 8. I don't think it's a bad movie. I think there are parts of it where it's not perfect and it's okay. But I mean, I think it's still a movie that people should watch, especially if they really like Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi.
Oh, yeah. You know, it's not a bad movie, but it's not an amazing movie either. No. It's good. It's good enough to hold up on its own.
Yeah.
You know, and despite plans for a 4, 5, and 6 movie, I'm glad that this movie ended the way it did.
Yeah, I am too. I think for what we got, it was a good ending.
Yep. And that's going to do it for this episode. We hope you guys like it. Please like, share, and subscribe to the IV Podcast. And as always, take care of others. Take care of yourselves. We'll catch you next episode. Peace out, everyone.
Bye, guys.